Hi everyone, we are in week 3 of our Portfolio Project 1 course. And in the previous week, you selected your portfolio project subject, and I've given my feedback on those subjects. Everyone's looked good. I did have a few questions in some cases, so take a look at my feedback, and if there's anything that needs to be clarified, go ahead and get back to me on that. Just really want to have it be a smooth path moving forward, so it's not really, I didn't see any major issues that are going to be setbacks, but just things that I would rather you have clarified in your head as you move ahead with the portfolio process. So this week we are identifying your target audience, and this is going to be based on the subject that you selected last week. So now you're going to describe who this subject serves. Who is their audience? Who is their fan base, or their consumers, or their congregants, whatever the case might be, depending on the nature of your subject. This is actually more complex than it seems. You can intuitively guess who the audience is, but a lot of times it gets down to a much more specific demographics than you might initially suspect. Um, each subject is going to have a different set of audience factors, and so let me just move ahead. Um, in the activity, I've listed some basic demographics, and these are things like geographic locations down to, state or city or neighborhood, if that's relevant. Sometimes some subjects are online, and so they serve like a really broad geographic audience. Others are more localized, so really kind of consider who your subject is. Other factors may not even apply. Things like ethnicity, gender, age range, marital status. These things aren't always relevant. Sometimes they don't matter at all, but sometimes they do. For example, if a subject was, for example, a Latin radio station, then your audience base is going to be really, Hispanic listeners who are Spanish speaking. So that in that case, ethnicity does become a factor. But if it's something that's just for the open public, then those factors really don't matter, and you don't even have to address those. That's fine. But just consider what is important. And what I don't want to see is that it is open for everyone, regardless of any of these factors, because that's almost never the case. Usually, oftentimes it's going to be a particular age range. A lot of subjects just aren't targeted to children. They are more geared towards adults, so that 18 and over would be the age range. And then you think about, you know, up to what age am I talking about? Is my subject something that appeals mostly to younger people between, say, 18 and 30? Is it something for, old, more mature people? Maybe there's been some cases where the audience was first time home buyers, in which case, you might be talking about predominantly married couples who are, later 20s to 40s and so forth. So really put some critical thought into this. We haven't, you haven't taken the research course yet, so I don't expect you to have any kind of really detailed research, but you can put some work into that. For example, one of the past portfolio subjects was a magazine geared towards skateboarding. And so, with that in mind, I could go on Google and do some looking and see who the typical skateboarder is. What is their age range? Are they mostly male? Which is the case, even though there's a growing movement with girls who are taking up skateboarding. And that's an important factor too. If you do find that it's predominantly male or a predominantly female audience, then you can decide, well, I want to move into this category, and how can I appeal more to girls? So that becomes a factor. So do some looking online, see what you can come up with. Even if it's not your specific subject, things that are related to your subject, similar interests. Who are the people that are doing this, or partaking in this particular hobby, or are frequenting this particular kind of business? that information's out there. So take some time and do some looking. Um, some of the other factors, how do they communicate? This matters because the way that an 18-year-old male talks and communicates with his peers is going to be different from how a 40-year-old um, married woman communicates, and even the tone of voice. And that's going to be a factor because when you start building media directed at these people, you want it to be in a medium as well as a tone of voice that will best reach that particular audience. There are some other resources that you can use for research purposes. These are the US Census facts. That's really useful if you're dealing with a particular geographic location. Pew Research does a lot of media research and they have a lot of data available. In fact, they do um, a study each year on who's using different social media outlets. And the Nielsen ratings, you might be familiar with from television, has a lot of research studies on consumption of different media formats as well as genres of music and television. Just some examples. This is the breakdown of age ranges in Winter Park, Florida. So this is on U.S. Census facts. So if you have a subject that's geographically limited, then you can see who is actually in that geographic location. And it gives you stuff like average incomes, education levels, age ranges, ethnicities. Lots and lots of demographic information is available. Pew Research, this is an example of their social media reports. So you see it gives a breakdown each year of gender, ethnicities, age ranges, education levels, all of these different factors. So if you are dealing with something that is dependent upon a particular social media outlet, then this could be valuable information. And the Pew Research, or actually this is from Nielsen, that's mislabeled, um, gets more is more specific and a little bit more targeted, but sometimes you can find relevant information, and this is just one example. Who It's a breakdown of who's listening to electronic music, and so you see a breakdown by age as well as gender there. So take a look at those resources if they sound like something that could be relevant to your particular subject. But I really want you to put some thought into this. I don't want to see it's simplified down to all men and women between the ages of 12 and 99, because that's far too general. And I can't think of anything that really serves that wide of an audience, at least in a very targeted way. Because you have to think about who you are trying to communicate to, who's making the decisions. If it's a restaurant or something like that, who's making the decision to take their family there? And that's usually the parents. So use some critical thought and really put some effort into this. And that is where we're at for now. Um, as always, get in touch if you have any questions, and I will look forward to speaking with you again soon.